Good afternoon, shareholders, investors, ladies and gentlemen. We are happy that you found time to take part in the online seminar of our annual meeting. Unfortunately, for the second time in a row, we haven't been able to arrange a live event with you where we would meet you face to face because of the pandemic. We need to settle for the online event and will adopt decisions of the annual meeting by electronic voting without convening the physical meeting. The main goal of this seminar is to introduce the bills for shareholder decisions. They concern the approval of the annual report of the previous year, division of profit, that means payment of dividends, and auditor's appointment. The voting is already underway. It started this midnight and it'll last until the 24th of May. First of all, we'll hear the chairman of the board, Mr. Aare Tark, that'll give an overview of the board's work in 2020 and its future vision. Then, chairman of the Management Board, Valdo Kalm, will speak about the achievements and results of last year and development opportunities. Next, member of the board, CFO Marko Raid, will speak about the appointment of the auditor. And after that, the head of our legal department, Ms. Herli Lüdig, will speak about voting and how you can vote. You can ask questions through the Slido application. You can do that right now already and throughout the seminar until the Q&A session. Please use the link in the comments of the YouTube transmission using hashtag Port of Tallinn. If you want to ask a question specifically from someone, please add his or her name there as well. This seminar will be recorded, and if you want to review it, you can use the very same link you are using right now. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Aare Tark, and we'll start with our seminar. Enjoy!
Dear shareholders of Port of Tallinn, the employees of Port of Tallinn, and the cooperation partners who are listening and watching us here today. I have now a good opportunity to give you an overview of the Supervisory Board's activities during the previous year. So perhaps we'll start first with the Supervisory Board itself. July last year, we had some new members to the Supervisory Board, and 2 new members joined, Riho Unt ja Veiko Sepp. And the previous members of the Supervisory Board continued. That was Aare Tark, Ahti Kuningas, Marika Honkonen, Raigo Uukkivi, Urmas Kaarlep, Üllar Jaansoo. Now I'm also happy to note that the Supervisory Board was very busy last year. So we had 10 meetings. In addition, we had also the audit committee meetings, total 8. And we had adopted a whole list of important decisions. So I think that this is what we'll start with. We'll start with the decisions which were made by the Supervisory Board last year. So first of all, maybe you should consider the fact that last year we renewed the strategy of the entire group, and to remind to all the people in attendance right now that we are operating in 4 business fields. So first of all, passenger transport, cargo transport, shipping and real estate. And based on the UN Summit of 2015 in New York, where the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted, and as the Republic of Estonia acceded to this convention, adopting the same goals, and the government of the Republic in 2019 approved all these goals which had to do with climate neutrality, which had been established for year 2050. Now the Port of Tallinn accordingly last year renewed its strategy. And on this slide you can see what the main priorities have been and what are the main goals which the Supervisory Board and the Management Board have established for the years to come. So I'm not going to list all the goals and priorities separately, but here I would consider it important to note that one important goal for Port of Tallinn is to make sure that we would be actually the most innovative port in the Baltic Sea region, and we do everything we can so we can meet all these environmental goals which have been established on the international level and by the Republic of Estonia, so that we would achieve climate neutrality by year 2050. So before we talk about more important decisions and investments, we had an important event last year where we extended the authorities of the members of the Supervisory Board, and that also meant the Valdo Kalm and the CFO authorities were extended for the next elective period. And I can tell you now that the authorities of the third member of the Management Board has been extended, so Margus Vehman is going to continue as Head of Commerce. But now covering more important investments. So first of all, I think what is important as a key word is that we have renovated and reconstructed the D terminal of the old port. And as we know, this is the most modern and most contemporary terminal in Estonia today. In a usual situation, it can hold over 6 million passengers per year in transit. Now, in addition to that, on the 2nd of December last year, our hybrid vessel Tallinn started its service. And because this vessel has very large battery banks, so therefore we can save a lot of diesel. And this is the first vessel of this category in passenger transportation, which can also operate during the winter. So this can now function all throughout the year as a hybrid vessel. What is also important to note that at the port of Muuga, we renovated the cargo building and we reconstructed the Ro-Ro quay. Another important key word is that we are in the south terminal of Paldiski. We have dredged the aquatorium at the south port of Paldiski. So, but we also have to keep an eye on important indicators. And I think one of the recognitions we have achieved as Port of Tallinn was the Nasdaq Baltic Stock Exchange recognition for Best Investor Relations of the Year. So this is definitely an indicator of one of our goals, so we can be transparent and open. We have also received the recognition for the Digital Construction Cluster, the Deed of the Year and the Organization of the Year award. And this is because we have been able to digitalize many processes of the Port of Tallinn. We have established the shore electricity connection. We have also prepared the automated docking and so forth. Another important recognition is for us to be an important actor in the delivery chain, the supply chain of 2020, because going through the using the smart port system, the single window, we can make sure that all our logistics processes have been automated, both in the old port and the port of Muuga. And I believe that one of the very important recognitions has to do with the fact that we have been considered to be one of the Estonian top 5 companies as one of the most valuable companies in Estonia. Now, if we look towards the future, then of course in our business we have to look at the outcomes. So we are hoping that in the nearest future we can regain the volume of passenger transportation, but this mainly depends on our health status in Estonia and also in the countries surrounding us. And one of the views has to do with sustainable development and growth. It's been adopted as a separate document in our new strategy paper, and this means that you can also look at it. It's available on our website. Another thing which is important is that as we've entered the stock exchange, we have said that we want to continue with the dividend policies. We want to continue paying dividends and make investments which have to do with the development of the port. Now, additionally, when looking at the future, it is also important to note that the port of Muuga should be the connection for the Rail Baltic cargo station, and we are really looking towards the future that all the developments and all the processes which have been designed and started today, that they would also be actually implemented. And this is something which we have taken into account in our strategy. So we will definitely continue with all our processes and systems digitalization. And an important field which we want to develop is real estate development in the old port. So here is a nice picture with which I would conclude right now. But I would like to thank all the employees of the Port of Tallinn, all the key personnel and the management, because thanks to your good work, we have been able to remain profitable and innovative. We have maintained our reputation in the Estonian economy. So thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to the Chairman of the Management Board, Mr. Valdo Kalm.
Dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the business results of last year. And let's peek into the future as well. The most important events last year. All of us, the Port of Tallinn as well, were seriously impacted by COVID-19. And due to the fact that we have many businesses in our portfolio, the impact wasn't that harsh, but passenger travel was seriously impacted nevertheless. But we did achieve records in cargo haulage, as the chairman of the supervisory board, Argo, just said. The hybrid ship Tõll was already operating. We set very specific goals, and it is important that we map the CO2 footprint in all of our ports. and we started designing or doing our part of the design in the Rail Baltic. A few things, all the concerns that the virus brought us, we can't really get around that, can we? The fact that passenger travel was impacted and is impacted today, but if we speak about the positives, cargo haulage increased. The impact was a lot less than we expected. And in shipping, we didn't really witness significant change. Neither were significant changes in real estate. So, since we had been careful in distributing our assets into different fields, we were able to manage our risks as well. Due to the strategy of sustainable development, we have quite specific goals and action plans how to reduce the CO2 level in our port. What does that port do? What can operators, our clients, do? And we have specific indicators for that, for this year, for next year, to fulfill the climate neutrality goals for next year. We are cooperating with universities in the field of science in mapping our footprint. I already mentioned the fact, if we are being a bit more specific, then there are some environmental projects in addition to the hybrid ship Tallinn. Shore electricity projects were initiated in 2018, and we can say today that all passenger operators are using it from the 1st of July. Most ships will use shore electricity. Together with the city and the city of Helsinki, we initiated a campaign against cigarette stubs. And we also started operating a trash collector in the port pool. Therefore, we also plan steps to remove the trash. So we are planning to purchase an automated independent trash collecting ship. We participated in the project of the Green Capital and the Green Tiger. This year we started using only green electricity, so we concluded a contract with Eesti Energia, so we'll be using green electricity only. As to volumes, you see that in passenger travel there was nearly a 60% decline. At the same time, cargo showed 7% growth, and it was not only liquid cargo but ro-ro grew as well, that is vehicles. And haulage for our import-export clients, so we secure their supply lines. In passenger travel, passenger ships, although the number of passengers went down, we were able to maintain our profitability. And the same applies for our offshore icebreaker Botnica. So there was more or less the same number of operation than in 2019. Economic results were impacted by the pandemic. Turnover went down by 17%. EBITDA fell by 21%. At the same time, we continued with our investments. We decided all major projects will continue. In parallel, we managed to cut costs and achieve efficiency, but investments continued. It is positive that although we lost profit in passenger travel, then in cargo ports as well as real estate, we managed to increase our profit. We are good in paying dividends. On average, we've paid 30 million a year. Today's proposal to shareholders is to pay 20.2%, that is 25 million. With that, we'll be sticking to our promise of dividend payments. That is a very important promise that we are able to fulfill when the times are difficult either. So we can predict our cash flows. Everybody is interested in the future, and a few slides about our development opportunities. So we'll look into this year in the business of infrastructure. You must have a long-term view. First of all, passenger travel. It will be most important to restore passenger travel this year and next year. And I must say that both investments as well as our other activities is preparing for new growth. We hope to restore passenger travel on Tallinn-Helsinki line and hopefully for Swedish lines as well in the future. When the cruise travel recovers, we believe in it. So we'll see cruise passengers in the second half of the summer. Many cruise operators and travel operators have let us know that they will be introducing certain lines this summer already. In order to reinstate cruise business at a profitable level, we are building a promenade, and it will be completed in July this year. We'll be completing a very important bridge that will link our port areas. That will be completed in July this year as well. And we are redesigning the area in front of our D terminal. The project is in the bidding stage, and we'll plan to start this as soon as we can. It will be completed next year. It is no less important to use automation and new solutions. Shore electricity connection is completed. Ships are using it, and if they are not, they will start using it from the 1st of July. Automatic docking is being tested. We are doing tuning right now, and hopefully all three operators, Viking Line, Eckerö Line and Tallink, will start using automated docking. That is an efficient solution, and it will reduce our costs significantly in the future. At the same time, we have been quite busy planning for shore electricity for all the ships. That is quite a challenge because cruise ships need quite a lot of power. We must combine different technologies, including hydrogen, but studies are underway. At some point, this will be a requirement for ports, most probably. So we want to be ready and maybe even be the trailblazers here. We'll also start renovation of a terminal this year. And we'll plan certain works for the future as well. Real estate. That is mostly linked with the old port. We'll be carrying out our master plan. To be more specific, all the land that we have is in the process of detailed planning. We've gotten furthest in the southern part. For us, that means that we are not developing it ourselves. We'll rent it. We'll give long-term rent agreements, and we'll arrange biddings for developers. And that should start from the southern part, the area around Reidide. We'll move on from there. It is very important to consider tram tracks there as well. In cooperation with the city, will probably be set before the end of summer, and that should create traffic solutions for detailed planning and we hope to get these plans confirmed. We also have industrial parks in Muuga and Paldiski's southern port. We have some free land there where we can invite our existing investors, new investors and clients. The most important events this year is our key client Kata-Nati, whose fourth stage development will be completed. I hope it will be the largest logistics center in Estonia. Hala, their daughter company in Estonia, will bring here new Panamax cranes. These are huge container cranes that enable loading and unloading the biggest container ships. The plans are to bring them to Muuga this summer, and that will create wonderful opportunities for container business in Muuga. I mentioned already Rail Baltica. That is a strategic project for us. Planning is underway, and it seems that right now it should be completed by 2026. We have very specific negotiations with the Rail Baltica and clients on how far which area will be allocated for Rail Baltic connections, and that will give excellent opportunities for servicing the goods in the northern and southern corridor up to the Mediterranean. I mentioned hydrogen electricity for shore electricity, but with Alexela Livaton we'll be discussing the opportunities for hydrogen technology at Muuga and Paldiski. In the future, we might see hydrogen as new cargo article. And that means creating an import-export terminal for hydrogen either at Muuga or Paldiski. There are plans to create wind farm, to build it or restore it. We might have a plan to build a new quay, but in Paldiski Tallinna Sadam there are big and good possibilities for creating an ecosystem. We have land available in the surrounding areas. We have a special ship Botnica that can build or maintain wind farms, so even offshore wind farms, so that creates wonderful opportunities. In shipping, we will be continuing building environmentally friendly ships. The first hybrid ship, Tallinn, has shown excellent results. We'll be moving on and look into hydrogen. Of course, efficiency is important, reducing fuel consumption, and client experience. TS ships are service companies first and foremost. For Botnica, we can say that in the first quarter this year, TS Shipping managed to win a 10-year contract for icebreaking here in Estonia. This means we have guaranteed work for the next 10 years from 2022 onwards. For this year, we have signed a summer project in Canada, but the Canadian client Buffinland expects this project to expand, and it is up to us to figure out how we will work along these lines. I'd like to end by describing the future, that Tallinna Sadam Port of Tallinn is a smart, innovative and green company, a smart port concept that spreads ever wider and wider. It is about a digital port, a green port. We are building a digital twin in our information systems. all the assets have been digitalized in 3D. It's absolutely necessary to improve operation, to plan for improvements and renovations, and also for development. So we'll definitely continue digitalizing our logistics chains. A lot has been spoken about smart ports, but the digital window needs to be working 100%. We need to look at the whole picture together with road transport, shipping, and railways. Both the chairman's and my presentation mentioned environmental projects. Our long-term goal is to become a climate neutral port, not only as a port, but together with all our operators. We'll be monitoring CO2 emissions, and we will be continuing with the environmental projects. Automated docking, shore electricity, these will reduce emissions. The old port will be transferred to Muuga. Green electricity, green gas for our clients and cooperation partners, and renewal of our own fleet. Even our real estate development has to be environmentally friendly. This environmental vision is backed by actual activities, and we are very conscious about the environment where we live in. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. I'd like to thank the shareholders for your trust. Please ask questions and we'll be answering that at the end of the presentations. And now I'd like to give the floor to Marko Raid, our Chief Financial Officer.
Good afternoon, dear shareholders and everybody else following us over the internet today. In 2018, the Port of Tallinn organized a procurement to find an auditor, and having consulted with the audit committee, the decision was made that this procurement will be organized based on the principle of 3+2. So we will be looking for an auditor for 3 years with the possibility to extend the contract for another 2 years. So we had 4 big audit companies participating, and the best bid was made by KPMG Baltics. And then in 2018, we concluded a contract with them for auditing services. Now 3 years have gone, and we have now reached this stage that with the supervisory board and the audit committee, we discussed whether we will use this possibility of extension for 2 years or not. And since our experience with the auditor has been positive, and the cooperation has been constructive, then we came to shared conclusion, and we are making the proposal to the General Assembly for the KPMG to continue for another 2 years. They are our auditors right now, and the conditions have been then established in 2018 based on the bid they made. So this was my brief introduction to this point in the agenda, and now I'd like to give the floor to Erli Lüüdig, who is going to discuss the technical aspects of voting. Dear shareholders and dear listeners, I would like to introduce the procedure of adopting decisions for the General Assembly and the timetable. Adoption of the decisions will take place this year as it was last year, based on the Article 299(1) of the Estonian Commercial Code and without calling the General Assembly. So this option is possible unless the statutes of the company would foresee different measures, and it is not foreseen different measures in our statutes. According to the Commercial Code, we do not have to send the drafts to the shareholders, but this information has to be published in a national newspaper, and we need to publish this information on our homepage. The General Assembly notification came on the 12th of April in Eesti Päevaleht newspaper, and on the same day on our homepage. The shareholders' lists was established by 17th of May 2021. Now the voting period started today, that's May 18th, at midnight, and will last for 7 days until the 24th of May at midnight. And this voting period is long enough that you have time to vote, and if necessary you can also issue your proxy. And the decision made by the shareholders will be published as a stock exchange notification. It will be published on our website by the 31st of May of 2021. Now voting. So please forward your ballot during the voting period with a digital signature to the website or the email address investor@ts.ee, or you will sign it on paper, scan it, add a copy of your ID and send it to the email investor@ts.ee, or you have a paper copy with a copy of your ID and you send it to our post address of Tallinna Sadam at Tallinn. And for voting, the shareholder or the authorized person will note on the ballot their own data and also clearly whether they are in favor, against or abstaining for every decision. So if the shareholder fills it out or the representative fills it out, then if it's done by proxy, then you also have to send your letter of the authority for proxy. All the proxy notices, ballots and other information are available on our website, which is www.ts.ee. If the shareholder is a legal person registered in a foreign country, then please add a copy of the commercial code of your country where we can see the right of representation. So this has to be in English or translated into Estonian or English by a sworn translator or a person equivalent to a sworn translator. Legal person who is registered in the Estonian Commercial Code will be checked by us. These ballots do not count which have not been clearly filled out, and where we have a doubt of the credibility of this ballot or which arrived outside the voting period. Now, if the shareholder sends in more than one ballot, then the last ballot is considered to be the true one. If the shareholder does not inform whether they informed in favor or against, it's considered that they voted against. If there are any questions regarding the draft decisions, could be sent to investor@ts.ee, or you can call us at 631 8555. Now the decision making points for shareholders are as follows. So the first point of the agenda is the approval of the 2020 financial year, then profit distribution and auditor selection. So I hope you'll have a good voting session, and now we'll have questions and answer session. So for questions and answers, we have invited back here Aare Tark and Valdo Kalm, since there are questions submitted to them, which makes sense, of course, because I suppose everybody wants to know more about the business and how things are going. But we'll start with Aare. So first one is a bit intriguing. If you talk about the state as a large-scale shareholder, do they also intervene in the business of the supervisory board? So how would you describe the relationship between the state and the Port of Tallinn? As we know, the Port of Tallinn has been listed on the stock exchange since 2018, and according to the rules of the stock exchange, all the shareholders are equal when it comes to distribution of information and everything else. So I think the easiest and shortest answer is the state has not intervened, or the state talks, communicates, meets with the Port of Tallinn, and our management also communicates with all the shareholders, but based on the rule of equal information. Thank you. A second question. If you talk about sustainable development, then it is a very hot topic. And the question is that about the sustainable development, that what are the focuses and topics which are planned for this year for your meetings when it comes to sustainable development? As it was said before, based on the sustainable development strategy, we are mapping all these goals year by year. So what are the realistic goals in different fields? And as Valdo mentioned in his presentation, that we have been interested in the hydrogen technology, using different options there. So this has to be first mapped and measured. So what are the realistic possibilities when we can actually use something? But at the same time, if we talk about the activities which have a serious environmental impact, which the supervisory board and the management board are keeping an eye on, then this is linked to our daily operations. So we talk about circular economy. So that means we accept waste from the vessels. We are trying to recycle them, reuse them, so that we would have as little pollution as possible, or to be as close to zero as possible. Now the same topic is linked to CO2 and emission gas reduction. It's also linked to the waste collection at the port waters. So all of these things have to have an environmental impact. But when it comes to the supervisory board, then part of our focus and the plans are these developments, which have to do with the real estate and the old port development, because the city of Tallinn is the city by the sea, and one of the important objectives is that if we're by the sea, then we should be open to the people in Tallinn, and also to all our guests and tourists. So I think in the situation where we've been for years and decades ago, where the sea was closed to us, then I think when it comes to the future strategy, then the access to sea should be part of the cityscape and the public scape, where it'll be a nice place for all of us to live or people to visit and enjoy this beautiful city of Tallinn. Thank you. Now questions for Valdo. So what do you think is the potential for the Tallinn Old Port real estate business? Yes, now it's good topic to continue, because it is the future business, as we have said. This is sort of icing on the cake, so we see a value there. But of course it needs to be worked on. We have to implement our master plan. In my presentation, I said that we are working on the detailed planning permissions, and we want to take one step at a time. So we do not want to start operating everything, but we are taking one land parcel at a time or one plot at a time, because it depends on the market situation as well, because there is no point to push out a large volume. Because I see a possibility and opportunity on the south side, which is by the Reidi Road, for the development of apartments and offices. So there we have planned for apartment buildings, mostly rental apartments. Maybe we have a different models in place, but there is potential there for private and public market. For these two questions, when it comes to the real estate, then we can maybe link the social and business topics so that we would not have border so much between the city and the port, but there is a smooth transition. We can see the clients are more demanding. They want to live in an environment which provides a high value. So it's no point to just build a bunch of boxes, but we want to create an environment which is suitable for both private clients and corporate clients, and it has accesses, and there's a connection to the city. It's close to the city. There's transportation routes and so forth. Thank you. Next question is for Port of Muuga. So what is the project of the soya and food oils, this agro production plant, oil processing plant? One positive thing is that due to the pandemic, they have not actually disappeared on us. As far as we know, then all the necessary documents have been submitted. So to get a building permission this year, because we have approved the technical project. It's not a draft, it's a detailed blueprint we have approved, and now we are waiting for the decision of the local government. So we are hoping that the permission will be issued this year, and the investors have said that they're going to start with the construction with the first phase. I'm glad to hear that things are moving forward. And the last question for Valdo is about digitalization. So how far is the digitalization of logistics chain, and what was done during the previous years in this field? So this chain is comprised of different components. The port itself has made a more specific step. So last year we have made a decision, and we started with the smart port application transference to Muuga. So when it comes to heavy trucks and passenger cars, how we can run the better Muuga port so we can do better trade there. This is our share of things. But to be honest, I'm not very happy with the digitalization of the entire chain. So when it comes to railroad and cars, and a lot of participants have a lot to do here. From a technological point of view, all the tools are there, but it presumes that there has to be process engineering, because you have to think through this entire chain, and that is not exactly always easy. So I think that I would want to see higher speeds when it comes to the digitalization of this chain, but this is the key for the future, because this is where we can we can make better proposals for our clients. We see the price is better, and this is a very big flexibility for the cargo business.
Another question came in, and I'd like to address that to Valdo. And that concerns the southern part in Paldiski. You shared some light on the possibilities there, wind farms and other projects. So it's important to repeat some of the keywords. You can say that Paldiski is a lot smaller port than Muuga with its 10 quays, but it's a very good port. They showed increase in cargo haulage as a port, since Ro-Ro increased quite well in Paldiski port as well. it has potential, but in long-term perspective, I wouldn't be speaking about Ro-Ro only. In addition to several groups of cargo, we see that as a building and maintenance port for wind farms, offshore wind farms. We need to build docking station or a port for certain ecological systems, not only the wind farms built in Estonia or offshore wind farms, but these offshore wind farms built in the whole area in the Gulf of Finland. We plan an investment into a key decisions have not been made, but it requires investments, and I believe we'll be hopefully be able to make these decisions this year already. Thank you, Valdo. Thank you, Aare. With that, all questions have been answered. I'd like to thank you all following our online seminar. And finally, a video clip for you to enjoy. Thank you.